Hello friends, thanks for joining me for this little marker exploration today. So I was gifted this beautiful set of ohuhu alcohol-based markers for Christmas. This is called the Oahu set. In the box of 120 markers, it comes with this little insert that you can use if you're using thinner paper so it doesn't bleed through. And 2 sheets, I already started one of them, of blank spots where you can swatch all of the colors. This set, which is called the Oahu set, comes with the markers have a thin side and then a chisel side as opposed to having one that's a brush, which is what the other alcohol-based markers I have, Copic markers have. For anyone who hasn't tried alcohol-based markers, the beauty of like an alcohol-based marker as opposed to a water-based is that you can get these really beautiful blending effects. Most alcohol-based markers will come with a colorless blender that you can even use to really enhance blending effects, but I usually just will do blending one color into another without having to use the blender, but it is an option if you want to. This set came with so many colors that I decided to organize it so that all of my favorites that I'd want to grab the most were in one section, and I could put the colors I use less in their own sections just so it's easier for me to find the colors that I needed. So what I ended up with was a palette of all of my favorite really earthy, like soft pinks and greens in the bottom right, and then I organized all the grays together and all the like purples and pinks together and the blues and greens together. So the swatch sheets ended up being extremely useful, and I don't know what I would have done without them because I found that even once the marker dried, the color that was on the cap was way lighter than what you would end up with on the page. It was like right here, you can see it's way darker. It did get a little bit lighter as it would dry, but still came nowhere close to the shade that was on the cap. So in addition to that, because all of the shades that looked like they were going to be light were actually really dark, I found it was hard to get the light shades that I wanted, and so overall everything ended up being a lot darker than I would have liked for it to be. Before I start a piece like this, I like to pick out all of my colors ahead of time because I find if I don't, I get really carried away in adding too many colors to my palette, and then the piece looks not very cohesive. And as you can see, even though I started with a limited palette, I add more as I go, so it's good to put restraints on myself. And then I decided to swatch them all again on my opposite page so I could really see what colors I was about to use, because it was easier than like cross-checking with my swatches above, and it was also a way to test and make sure that when these colors dried, they looked together the way that I wanted them to. I have learned the hard way through many not very good looking art pieces that the key to alcohol markers is working really slowly, because you want to be depositing enough of the ink down that you're getting like a really thick layer of it, because if you do too quickly, you don't really, like, it ends up being kind of patchy. And sometimes I do that on purpose because I want that look, but in general, you have to move quite slow. So what I'm trying to do here, which I regret not just doing for the first few leaves as well, is to lay down a bit of the lighter color first so that I can blend in the darker color so that it will make a blendy effect. I did find that the paper that I'm using, by the way, which is a Render Crescent sketchbook, am I saying that right? Hold on. Yes, that is what it is, and I absolutely adore this sketchbook. The pages are incredible, nothing bleeds through, and I can use it for paint, I can use it for markers, I can use it for literally anything, and I love it. I'm definitely going to be rebuying more of these sketchbooks, but it is not great for alcohol markers because what I found is that it really absorbs the ink right away and it's really hard to blend. So I did get a bit of blending happening, but it's quite minor compared to what you can get on a paper that's better suited to alcohol markers. And I do a demo at the end of this video with these markers on proper marker paper if you're curious. Okay, I feel like I need to let you in on a secret, which is that most of the things in this little sketchbook spread are things that I like just took for inspiration, that are like objects that are in my office, like the sketchbook that I'm drawing in and my plants and stuff. But I definitely make my monstera look like it's doing a lot better than it really is, because it's really not. It's got a few yellow leaves and the other leaves are really curled, and I've tried everything and I don't know how to save this plant. So SOS, please let me know if you know how to save my monstera. She appreciates your support. This guy is my ZZ plant, which is a plant that was on my list for a really long time, of one that I wanted to own but hadn't yet, and then I just stumbled upon one this summer, and I would definitely recommend it for anyone who just likes a nice looking leafy plant but that isn't too hard to take care of. I've had absolutely no issues with it dropping leaves or anything like that, and I have it in a spot where it doesn't get a particularly huge amount of sun either, so gets an A+ from me, and I would definitely say it's a good, like, beginner-friendly plant. So you may recognize this cute little guy from the intro. This is a little star ornament that was made by my friend Neela. Hey, Neela. My mom actually ordered some little treats from her shop for me for Christmas this year, and I just, like, I'm pretty sure I cried when I opened it, because I just thought it was so cute that my mom would go to a little shop owned by a friend of mine to get me gifts. It just makes my heart so happy. So this part, when I went to like I was trying to draw the pencils that I have, they are Faber-Castell like sketching pencils, and so I was trying to draw, like, they have kind of like stripes on the sides, but apparently I have super shaky hands, which I don't know if it's from all the coffee I drink or if I'm just shaky, but they're super crooked. So I tried to use the colorless blender to kind of like just blend them out a little bit because they were really wonky, but just to showcase the point that this paper isn't great for the markers, it like did not blend at all, even though I really quickly grabbed the blender to try and do it. I really do want to point out though that once I kind of like got the hang of these, the feel of these markers, I was able to get this like beautifully soft, blended, not streaky results that you can see here in the steam, and that's exactly what I want from an alcohol marker, and these markers were great for that. first I wasn't so sure how I was gonna feel about not having a brush tip, but I ended up actually really liking it. I would do the chisel tip to do large surfaces, which I actually never do with my Copics. I end up just using the brush for everything because you can change how wide it is, but the chisel ended up being really good for getting nice flat colors. And then I would go in with the fine tip for really small areas, and when I was gonna go in and do like the shading details and stuff, like you can see I do on like the neck and the ear of my little self-portrait. So this little mushroom guy is not based on a real mushroom, but a mushroom candle that I recently found. I was at Anthropology looking for a Secret Santa gift because I generally try to avoid that store because I just want to buy everything that's in there and I can't afford any of it. But I thought maybe I could find something that'd be good for the price range of my Secret Santa. But I didn't find anything, although I did find this very cute mushroom candle. The like little toadstool top comes off and the base part is a candle. And I just loved it so much, and it was in the sale section and it said all like sale items would be an additional 30% off, and I was stoked about that. And then when I brought it to the till, it must have just gotten put in the sale section by accident because it was not on sale. But I was too in love with it to part with it, so I bought it anyways, even though it was like a $35 candle. But it's so cute. I don't even think I'm gonna burn it. I just love looking at it on my shelf. Here's a picture of what the actual candle looks like. And here's my little page, all done. So now what I thought I would do is I grabbed some of my Copic markers that are kind of like color dupes for the same ones I used in the little sketchbook page piece so that you can see the comparison of how they blend and what the colors look like and how pigmented they are. So I'm just kind of redoing the mushroom with the Copic markers instead. And what I noticed right away is that the Copic markers have a much more watery look to them on the page, and they really blended super well, and it took a little bit longer for the Copics to dry, so when I tried to immediately add some more color on top, it just blended in so much that you couldn't even see that it was another layer. I had to come back in with it afterwards, where I was finding with the ohuhu markers, it was kind of like immediately you could layer on top because it was drying on this paper so quick. So you can see that the Copics are a lot softer, and even on this second layer really blend into the initial layer more than I found the ohuhu markers did. So here I am mimicking my Monstera leaf to see if I can get it to blend a little bit more than I did on the opposite page, and it was a little bit more successful, but not a lot, and I think it's because of the paper. So I do right beside just really like basically try to blend them together and see how it goes, even when I'm working quickly like you're supposed to make it blend. And it really doesn't work very well, which is what really indicated to me that it's the paper that's the problem, because I know Copics can blend really well. So to be able to show you and for myself to know really what these markers can do side by side, I grabbed my marker paper. It's a little bit on the waxy side, so it's really good for blending alcohol-based markers. So I just wrote out a little key so I could try each of them and see how they would do in a side-by-side comparison. So when I do Copic with Copic together, it's exactly what I'm used to. They blend really nicely, makes a beautiful gradient. The ohuhu I found like held on to the darker color I mixed it with earlier a little more than Copics usually do, so I had to kind of like use it a bit to get that dark color off. And then the blending was fine. It just like wasn't as good as Copics. I'm not a super great blender either. I'm relatively new with Copics still, but using the same techniques I did above, I could not get a really nice gradient. It was really blurring together, and the dark green was really dominating the light green, which makes me think maybe this paper is also not great for these types of markers. But as far as I know, this is probably the best, supposed to be the best for alcohol-based markers. So then I was curious about mixing them together because I thought it would be cool if I could kind of just use all of my markers at the same time, since I got a ton of ohuhu markers and I already have a few Copics. So I tried mixing them together. So I put the Copic on top of the ohuhu and then used the ohuhu light color to try and blend it. And the results were not great. Yeah, it kind of, the same thing that happened above, it just kind of made this like cloudy blob on top. And then this is with the Copic as the lighter color and ohuhu as the darker color. Yeah, again, I found that same thing that happened earlier. It was kind of like blobby, and there's this almost like ring kind of coming around in the darker color. I even went back in and did another Copic gradient just to be like, is this me? Am I like blending it bad? That's why this is happening. But I was again able to get a really nice gradient with the Copic. So I think it just might be, I don't know, my non-expert opinion is that the ohuhus are just not as great for blending as Copics, because I mean, they are more of a budget marker and you get what you pay for. But I also thought maybe potentially an issue was that I wasn't letting it dry enough in between, and I might be able to get a nicer effect if I let the first layer dry a bit more before trying to blend the second layer. So that's what I'm doing here, and unfortunately it didn't seem to help very much. I was still getting some weird lines and edges coming up with that. So honestly, overall my review of them is positive. I really liked them for the piece that I did in my render sketchbook, although I didn't go for anything more than quite subtle blends for that piece. And again, the paper isn't generally ideal for alcohol-based markers, so if you are like a really advanced alcohol marker user, I could potentially see you getting like frustrated with them not being great for blending. But if you just want to like try them out and see if you like them, I think they would be perfect for that. And they're also just really fun if you just like doing art with markers and you don't need it to be like amazing, super perfectly gradiented blends. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while I tested out these markers. If you have any other like questions or thoughts, leave them for me in the comments. I'll definitely get back to you. And yeah, you're the best. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.